Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of BTTH the Flame Emperor episode number 183 based on novel. So let's start. Break it to me, suppress me. The roars of the two elders of heaven and earth and Dong Xian kept echoing in the inner space of the ancient tree. The attack of the two, the golden ancient bell has a powerful aura that suppresses everything, and the huge black-green palm also has a destructive power that smashes everything, so a rather funny scene appeared in Lingmengsheng. And in front of the young and old. The black-green palm pressed against the golden ancient clock, and the two couldn't stand still. This. Qing Laro felt the tyranny of the two attacks, so he couldn't help but speak. The attack of the two, whether it is the second old man of heaven and earth or Dong Xian, is not something he can handle now. Are you going to make a move? After a while, Qing Laro still gritted his teeth and said, being not. Although the strength of the two elders of heaven and earth is not as strong as that of Dong Xian, their own strength is very close to the peak of Do Di, so the combined power of the two fighting skills has increased geometrically, and it should not be difficult to deal with Dong Xian. Lingmengsheng shook his head. Furthermore, if we go in rashly in this terrifying fluctuation, I'm afraid we will be implicated. After a while, Lingmengsheng opened his mouth. Obviously, the attack intensity of these two is too terrifying. If the two go in rashly, even if they are as powerful as the 9-star fighting emperor level, and I am afraid that they will be seriously injured by the two forces. Good guy. As expected of a combination of fighting skills, this power is probably enough to be called the first person under Dozian. But have you forgotten that I am the real fighting immortal? On Dong Xian's forehead, a trace of sweat continued to surface, obviously because of the two elders of heaven and earth. Facing such a difficult enemy, Dong Xian decided to use the real bottom of the box. Means. Finally willing to use the power of pressing the bottom of the box. The two elders of heaven and earth are not very happy at this time. After all, they have to maintain the golden ancient bell, and the power of life and death is continuously conveyed, but the other party is a genuine fighting immortal strong. This is also a big load for the two of the broken. At the next moment, a more splendid wood attribute aura emerged from Dong Xian's body. With the appearance of the same black-green light, the leaves inside the ancient tree suddenly burst into bursts of joy. And then the two attacks, which were already exhausted, instantly turned into bursts of stars and fell down under their roars. Do it. Seeing this, Tiandi said to Lingmengsheng and Qinglao who were beside him, and then the figures rioted, and in the hands of the four, the terrifying ultimate move was directly cast away. It's too late. Dong Xian seemed to have anticipated the attack of the four, and then smiled slightly. However, as Dong Xian's voice just fell, in this forest, countless faint breaths slowly awakened. Although these breaths were weak, they were more numerous at the time. This. Mu Shuzi and Shen Mu, who were standing outside the ancient tree, immediately noticed the signs of the flowers and trees around them waking up. Although I don't know why these flowers and trees have their human breath, but RAO it is the sum of the flowers and trees of the entire forest, and it is also a strong force. It seems that this guy named Dong Xian is quite confident in his own strength. Fen Tian laughed slowly. Pavilion Master, this. Seeing this, Zhu Jin couldn't help but say. The meaning was very obvious. Zhu Jin was afraid that the four of them could not deal with Lingmengsheng, and immediately prepared to take action. This forest has been awakened by Dong Xian at this time, and I am afraid it has become his domain. I have to say, this guy is really powerful. Although it hasn't reached the level of cultivation, but with the special nature of this forest, it is possible to use such means. Fen Tian said with praise. As soon as Fen Tian's voice fell, Zhu Jin also calmed down. The four of them attacked Dong Xian in unison, and then the space inside the ancient tree, the stairs originally composed of leaves, dissipated in an instant, and then countless leaves suddenly gathered around Dong Xian. This guy. Tian Laro couldn't help but say something. The fighting immortals are powerful, but the four of us are not vegetarians. Di Laro seemed to be slightly different, and then glared at Dong Xian. Ha ha. Fourth, let me greet you from the wood world. The wind blade of wood. A strange smile appeared at the corner of Dong Xian's mouth. When he used all his strength, all the flowers and trees outside the ancient tree were awakened, and the space inside the ancient tree was the domain of Dong Xian. In this field, Dong Xian is equivalent to being invincible. After a few breaths, the huge wind blade formed by the countless leaves around Dong Xian suddenly appeared. Above the wind blade, a burst of destruction directly emerged, and even the space inside the ancient tree was facing the danger of collapse. The four attacked and left. This guy's power of fighting immortals is of the wood attribute. He can control all the plants in this forest for his own use. Even the power of the trees in the forest is continuously injected into it. This is troublesome. And the inside of this ancient tree is equivalent to his domain. A powerhouse at the level of fighting immortals, who is in his own domain, is equivalent to being invincible. The old man felt this sudden scene and couldn't help but say, miscalculation. When Ling Mengsheng saw this, the huge wind blade composed of leaves directly surrounded the four of them. The wind blade contained an extremely tyrannical power, and a little contamination might result in a serious injury. Since that's the case, let's fight in the end. Heaven and earth are old, young and old. The four of us are all fire attributes, and fire overcomes wood. If we gather the strength of the four of us, I'm afraid there will be a chance. Ling Mengsheng said in a calm manner when faced with a desperate situation. Hihi, let's go crazy with you. The two elders of Tiandi smiled slightly when they heard this. Obviously, at this stage, Dongxian used the real power of fighting immortals. Among the four of them, no one could defeat Dongxian. Now the only plan is to gather the power of four people. What should we do? The old man also knew the seriousness of the matter, and immediately went straight. It's very simple. Give me your strength. Ling Mengsheng's pupils flashed a madness, and then his eyes were fixed on Dongxian, who was like a king. Okay. Tiandi Laro and Qing Laro heard the words and spoke directly. Immediately without hesitation, the energy of life and death in his body left his body directly, and gathered towards Rimu Sheng's body. At the same time, the power of black and white life and death in Ling Mengsheng's body actually began to fuse vaguely. After a while, black and white life and death were perfectly blended, a horror that was exactly the same as the power of fighting immortals on Dongxian's huge wind blade. Power is also born slowly, forcibly using the power of outsiders to soar to a semi-immortal level. After all, it's a sideshow. Go to with regret. After Dongxian finished speaking, he squeezed his palm slowly, and the huge wind blade immediately drowned the four of Ling Mengsheng, and the breath of the four was also submerged by the huge wind blade of destruction. Disappeared without a trace. A few brats who don't know how high the sky is. Dongxian said coldly as he looked at the four Ling Mengsheng who were drowned and swallowed up by his own Doxian wind blade in mid-air. After a short while, when the wave of the destroying wind blade gradually calmed down, Dongxian did not see any bones of the four of Ling Mengsheng, so he couldn't help but frown tightly. Damn, if these four people just died like this, how can I go to King Shenling to receive the reward? Dongxian seemed to realize something, and then he swept his figure and went directly to the place where the four of Ling Mengsheng disappeared just now. Look for it. He. It turns out that Ling Mengsheng was planning to use that thing. At this moment, Zhu Jin, who was outside the ancient tree, saw the last moment. Ling Mengsheng's strength was temporarily reached with the help of the power of the two old people in the world. At the half-immortal level, he immediately laughed. That thing, but Ling Mengsheng's famous stunt, let alone Dongxian's strength in the early stage of 1-star Dozian, I am afraid it is the current 2-star Dozian strength of their Funxiang Pavilion Master Fen Tian. The way of dreaming. Never mind. These four guys have completely fallen. I'm afraid King Shenling will get the news soon. I'll go to investigate again. Dongxian searched for a while, but did not find any of the four of Ling Mengsheng traces, and then gave up and said, Hey, Dongxian, are you in such a hurry to leave? But just as Dongxian stopped his hand and was about to return to the top of the canopy of the ancient tree, a sound like a life-threatening and impermanent sound slowly sounded in the inner space of the ancient tree. Who? Get out. A cold light flashed in Dongxian's eyes, and he immediately said vigilantly, The inside of this ancient tree can already be called its own domain, but even so, there is no sense of the person who just spoke. In this case, I am afraid that the person who just spoke will be stronger than himself. A difference of one level between fighting immortals is enough to decide life and death. Haha, who else could it be? As soon as he finished speaking, the voice he had just opened slowly appeared. Rimu Sheng? You're not dead. Dongxian saw the figure that appeared, and this figure was clearly the four people who had just completely fallen under his own fighting fairy wind blade. Why are the four people appearing now? Die. With your three-legged cat skills, do you want to kill us too? Are you daydreaming? Ling Mengsheng said slightly disdainfully. You. When Dongxian heard the words, he was furious. This young man was the weakest among the four. If it wasn't for the existence of Rimu, I'm afraid Dongxian would kill him instantly. Your attack is really strong. But you don't know how powerful my death-inducing flames are. Ling Mengsheng said slowly. After speaking, he gently raised his palm, and on the palm full of calluses, a small black and white flame was slowly beating. A tiny flame is different from a flame, it is clearly not a flame, and through a special method, the energy flame condensed by the fusion of the power of life and death. This is death-rushing flames. The next moment, Dong Xian's expression was so contemptuous that he was even full of fear. Although Dong Xian is not from the Shenling continent, he has been in the Shenling continent for many years, and he has a very good understanding of some of the things in the Shenling continent that make him dread. In the 3 days of Shen, there were many supersects, but Dong Xian was too lazy to care about them. But among these supersects, there were 10 powerful men with fierce reputation. And what Dong Xian said just now is the death-killing flame, which is the 5th-ranked powerhouse's signature method among the top 10 ruthless men. As soon as the flames of death come out, the soul is locked up. It's Shen Tiantian's summary of the 5th-ranked powerhouse among the top 10 ruthless men. The death-rushing flame is not a strange fire, nor a holy flame, but a special kind of energy. Under certain conditions, it is said that this energy can completely ignore the defenses of human beings, thus achieving a one-hit kill. This is also the origin of the death-rushing flame. Mengsheng still uses that thing. Outside the ancient tree, Shen Muqing couldn't help but say. Before Ling Mengsheng knew him, he was the 5th most vicious person among the top 10 powerhouses in the entire Shenzhen 3 days, but after knowing himself, Ling Mengsheng rarely killed people. As soon as the death flame comes out, I'm afraid Dong Xian's good days will come to an end. Mu Shuzi also said. Mu Shuzi knew very well that Ling Mengsheng's death-inducing flames could make the entire Shentian powerhouse fearful, because Ling Mengsheng used this attack to kill a half-immortal powerhouse in the True Sen. At that time, the strength of Ling Mengsheng had only just reached the 9-star Do Emperor, but now, with the help of the other 3, his strength has already reached the level of a half-immortal. The death-inducing flames displayed at the half-immortal level, I am afraid that they have the power to fight against the real fighting immortals. Dong Xian, how many wicked things have you done behind the scenes for the Shenling royal family over the years? Today, I will send you to hell. In order to condense this attack, Ling Mengsheng used all his strength to use up. Don't be ashamed. Although Dong Xian was fearful in his heart, he did not show any fear, and said calmly, "Let's die." Seeing this, Ling Mengsheng shrugged and smiled, and then the black and white flames the size of the eyes on the palm of his hand instantly projected towards Dong Xian. Boom! Wherever the black and white flames went, the space collapsed, and even the spiritual energy of heaven and earth solidified instantly. Crappy. Break it for this old man. Dong Xian's pupils were full of bloodshots, and then he raised his hands suddenly, and the dazzling power of fighting immortals formed a huge defense directly in front of his body, up to 10 layers. Completely ignore defense. How can it be? The powerhouse at the pinnacle of Do Di is just relying on other people's rumors. When I take your attack, you will be truly dead. Dong Xian seemed to be extremely distrustful of the rumors from the outside world. How could there be an attack that completely ignores defenses in this world? It's over. At the next moment, after the black and white flames in Ling Mengsheng's hands were projected towards Dong Xian, he lost all his power, directly showing a free-fall movement and falling down the ancient tree, and the corner of his mouth, but he laughed. Heian was not in a hurry or slow, and slowly swept away at Dong Xian, and Dong Xian's defense seemed to be ineffective. Heian directly ignored the defense, and through the defense, gently bumped into on Dong Xian's chest. With a sound, the black and white flames directly penetrated Dong Xian's chest, and at the same time, Dong Xian spurted out a mouthful of blood, and then a sense of fear emerged in his expression, but at this time Dong Xian was fighting all over his body. The power of the fairy is slowly disappearing. One-hit kill. How could it be possible? Dong Xian didn't know why he died until he died. His expression was full of disbelief, and then he swept directly under the ancient tree, losing his vitality rapidly. On the 7th floor of the underground palace, Elder Xian, who had been keeping his eyes tightly closed, suddenly opened his eyes slowly, and then said softly, "Dong Xian died." And with Elder Xian's movement, the dark night ghost hidden in the dark suddenly became happy. It seems that the people from Fenxiang Pavilion are indeed here. According to the plan. When Xian Laro heard the words, he laughed directly, as if everything was already in his hands, but he didn't know that at this time, the Dragon Addiction Legion had been secretly dispatched by King Shenling. And on the 7th floor of the underground palace, the mysterious man who was bound by countless chains said helplessly, "Fen Tian, you are throwing yourself into the net, it's finally over." Looking at Dong Xian who had fallen, Qing Laro and Tiandi laughed at the same time. Just after giving all the power to Ling Mengsheng, there is not much power left in the body of the 3. If they can't kill Dong Xian, I am afraid they can only expose Fenchen in advance, but fortunately they succeeded. Are you alright? The four of Ling Mengsheng lost their strength, and then landed directly at the bottom of the ancient tree. Seeing this, Xian Muqing and Mu Shuzi swept in and said while supporting the four, "It's alright, let's go, get out of here." Ling Mengsheng said, and immediately left. "The four of you, restore your strength here." Fen Tian's hands directly appeared several high-quality medicinal pills, and then projected them towards the four of them. The four took it and swallowed it directly, and as the pill was swallowed, the power in the four of them recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye. Although my death flame can ignore defenses, it's only against a very small number of unsuspecting enemies. Also, Dong Xian should not be dead. Ling Mengsheng replied with some power of life and death. "I know. Fighting immortals don't die so easily. But forget it, if you can kill him once today, you will naturally be able to kill him in the future. If you want to completely obliterate Dong Xian, I'm afraid Yu Jin and I will need to do it. Now that we have broken through the 6th floor of the underground palace, and the 7th floor of the underground palace is in sight, it's better not to expose it." Fen Tian shook his head and said, "There should be something in this ancient tree." After a while, the two elders of heaven and earth suddenly said, "It should be at the top of the canopy of the ancient tree, it should be a good thing." Fen Tian's induction naturally knew that there was a good thing on it. A few breaths passed, and the power of life and death in the four people's bodies also recovered. "Someone is here." After a while, the old man suddenly said something. "The less trouble, the better. Let's go, the 7th floor of the underground palace." Although Fen Tian knew that he was only a strong 8-star Do Emperor level, but now it was imminent to save Yang Kai. As for Dong Xian and the things at the top of the tree canopy, he could only give up temporarily. The group looked at each other and left immediately, quietly heading towards the 7th floor of the underground palace. Little did they know that the 7th floor of the underground palace at this time was already a Longtan tiger den. "Where's Dong Xian?" Fen Tian and his party had just left when a man appeared slowly. Just as he came out of the ancient tree, he muttered, "Why are there so many other breaths? Is there an enemy?" The man immediately smelled several different forces, and then opened his mouth slightly. "No, this matter must be reported to King Shenling as soon as possible." The visitor was Wenzi, who just saw Dong Xian's fall and couldn't wait to check it out. Importance is very important. And Wenzi just happened to pass by, and this scene happened immediately. However, Wenzi did not have the strength to fight immortals after all, so he naturally didn't know that Dong Xianhai had not completely fallen. And as Wenzi left, an extremely weak figure slowly appeared in the ancient tree. "Damn Wenzi, who is helping King Shenling while serving Elder Xian? Never mind. I still underestimate the power of the death flame. I'm afraid this body is mostly useless. It seems that King Shenling must make me a new body. Ling Mengsheng, Fenxiang Pavilion, I, Dong Xian, will never die with you in this life." Above Dong Xian's bleak body, a faint soul force slowly spoke. This soul power is Dong Xian's last chance of life. The attack of Ling Mengsheng just now was powerful, but it only destroyed Dong Xian's body vitality. As for the soul power, it caused serious injuries and did not destroy it. As for the immortal warriors, as long as they have any trace of soul power or even remnant souls, they can be reborn in other ways. "Sorry, I think, you don't have a chance." Just as Dong Xian's injured soul body was about to leave the 6th floor of the underground palace to find King Shenling, a sneering voice slowly reappeared around his body. Sounded. "Who is it?" Dong Xian was shocked when he heard that. Just now, he deliberately suppressed his own breath, and the arrival of the two and Wenzi happened to force Ling Mengsheng and his party back, but another one came. Through the voice of the voice, Dong Xian's injured soul could clearly feel that in this voice, there is an extremely huge soul power. "Rush the messenger." The next moment, Xiao Yan made a direct voice, and then the ancient ruler of the eternal fire flashed brightly on the palm of his hand, and then stared at Dong Xian's injured soul force with a smile on his face. And beside Xiao Yang, there was a beautiful and slim figure holding frost and snow in his hand, and he was also staring at Dong Xian with bad intentions. Until now, Dong Xian only knew what despair was. "Asshole! Asshole! Bastard!" Seeing this, Dong Xian shouted 3 times in a row, and then spoke directly. "It just so happens that Uncle Golden Dragon King needs a human body to resurrect. Your body in the early stage of Star Do Immortal is undoubtedly much stronger than the 6-star Do Emperor before me." Xiao Yang finished speaking to himself, with a strange smile on the corner of his mouth, staring at Dong Xian. "I fought with you guys." Dong Xian also realized that he was really going to fall here today, so he could only say something abruptly. Want to explode? How powerful is Xiao Yang's soul power? This Dongxian's soul body just appeared agitated. Xiao Yang knew what he was thinking, and then said slowly, "Frost and snow." Seeing this, Mu Yingying instantly slashed down 3-sword chi that contained the power of life and death, blocking all of Dongxian's retreats. Huang Quan is angry. Xiao Yang smiled slowly, and then a soul attack suddenly burst out. Dongxian's soul power was already injured, but now he was struck by Xiao Yang again, and he immediately became weak. "Don't kill me, don't kill me. I can give you anything you want." At this time, Dongxian already knew that he could not retreat, so he couldn't help begging for mercy. "No need." After Xiao Yang finished speaking, the Yi Huaheng ancient ruler flashed with the power of Emperor Yang, and was directly ready to obliterate the last trace of Dongxian's soul power. Dongxian's power is of course a 1-star Dozian, but now that his body is dead and his soul power has been seriously injured, I am afraid that there is no way to deal with a mere 6-star Do Emperor. Hey! Xiao Yang was just about to obliterate this soul power, but the Soul Eater talisman in his acceptance ring was flashing a suction force, directly absorbing this soul power into it. Don't devour me." Feeling the huge engulfing power, the screaming sound just lasted for a breath. This Dongxian, who was as powerful as a star in the early stage of Dozian, has completely fallen. The body of a 1-star fighting fairy. Good thing. Xiao Yang directly used Sheng Yang to carefully put away Dongxian's body. There seems to be something on it. After Xiao Yang had done all this, Mu Yingying also held the fairy sword and opened her mouth slightly. "I felt it too." Xiao Yang repeatedly confirmed that Dongxian had completely fallen and escaped without a trace of breath. He also raised his head and looked at the top of the ancient tree, where there seems to be an extremely ancient aura. I remembered that my uncle Golden Dragon King said before that the 6th floor of this underground palace seems to contain the mother of the fairy body tree, and that thing is necessary to save my uncle Golden Dragon King, so no matter what, you must go up and take a look. Moreover, Xiao Yang and the others were hiding behind the Fenshen crowd. The guardian in the underground palace was taken care of by Fenshen, so Xiao Yang didn't have any burden and came here easily. The breath, I am afraid they will be discovered by Fen Tian, but fortunately, Fen Tian and the others did not find it. Go! The two of them looked at each other, then walked directly up the stairs composed of leaves. Master of Soul Eater, are you too greedy? It devoured the foreign evil race before, and now it has devoured the soul of an immortal warrior. In Xiao Yang's acceptance of the ring, the Golden Dragon King looked lazily at the Soul Eater and said, as if he was terrified of the Soul Eater's remorse. Controlling the Soul Eater talisman to absorb Dongxian's soul power is quite dissatisfied. I'm not here to increase my strength. The Master of Soul Eater couldn't help but said in the Soul Eater talisman. This Golden Dragon King is the overlord of the Dragon Clan. Even if he is at his peak, he is not necessarily an opponent of others, so the Soul Eater is quite afraid of the Golden Dragon King. You're quite quick to strike. The Golden Dragon King said in Zaidu. Almost all the ghosts in our ghost world are soul bodies, so the soul bodies can directly enhance our strength, so. The Lord of Soul Eater also hurriedly explained. Are they all soul bodies? I remember this guy Xiao Yang said that their soul halls on the Daochi Road in the lower plane are also composed of some soul bodies. I don't know if there is any connection between the two. The Golden Dragon King said to himself. Watching the Golden Dragon King leave, the Soul Eater slowly digested the power of Dongxian's soul body that he had just swallowed. The soul power of a genuine fighting immortal is extremely powerful for the Soul Eater at this time. Supplement. The mother of the fairy body tree, with it, I can restore my peak soul state. When the time comes, let Xiao Yang refine a body for me. It's time to solve some things. Xiao Yang, this kid's strength is almost the same. I am also relieved to leave, but before leaving, there are still some things that need to be resolved. Yang Kai, when we parted, I didn't expect you to be in deep danger. The Golden Dragon King kept thinking. This space is really mysterious. Xiao Yang and Mu Yingying came to the top of the ancient tree at the same time, and then spoke slightly. It's just that when they came to the top of the ancient tree, both of them found that the place where they stepped into the top of the canopy was actually isolated by a seal. The seal was green, obviously it was just arranged by Dongxian. Speaking of which, this seal is also strange. Dongxian has completely fallen, and this seal has not been destroyed. This seal is supposed to isolate the thing inside from exuding aura. Xiao Yang's soul is powerful, so naturally he noticed something was wrong at the first time, and immediately said, "Look at me." After a while, Mu Yingying suddenly raised the Frost Snow Immortal sword on her palm and flashed, and casually stroked the seal in front of her. Immediately, the seemingly sturdy seal was broken open. The seemingly extremely random attack was actually evolved by Mu Yingying based on some information about the sword spirit in the immortal sword. Since Mu Yingying received the Frost Snow Immortal sword, she couldn't put it down and held it in her hand, and the sword spirit cast by Master Lu was always hidden in it and never appeared. However, Xiao Yan could see that Mu Yingying's use of the immortal sword and the sword spirit were quite smooth, without any weirdness. As the seal was broken, an extremely strong fragrance came out of the space sealed by the top of the tree canopy. The fragrance is so seductive, as if the power of the soul has been greatly nourished. Come in. Feeling the huge scent, Xiao Yang and Mu Yingying looked at each other immediately. It seemed that there was indeed a treasure inside. Immediately, the two of them swept in, and Xiao Yang's soul power flickered, instantly sealing the entrance. After all, if such a strong fragrance was released, it would be bad to attract other people. What a beautiful tree canopy! At this moment, Mu Yingying suddenly said with a smile. When the two came to the top of the ancient tree, they found that the top of the ancient tree was a space about 100 feet in size. In the space, the energy of the wood attribute was extremely strong. The effect of getting twice the result with half the effort, and the top of the canopy is also bred with extremely exquisite decorations everywhere. Those exquisite decorations are obviously made of wood, but they are natural. At the top of the ancient tree, a green canopy of about 1 meter bulged slightly, and many branches and green leaves concealed the contents inside, but Xiao Yang knew that the contents there might be it is the treasure of the 6th floor of this underground palace, the mother of the fairy body tree. Where such strong soul fluctuations? At this time, Mu Yingying pointed to the canopy and said, "Go over and take a look." Xiao Yang said also cautiously, "Although I don't know why Zhu Jin and the others didn't take this treasure, Xiao Yang still understands the principle of being careful. After all, this fairy body tree, in some respects, even the fighting spirit can't compare to it. Alluring. What a strong soul fluctuation. The contents here are probably related to the power of the soul." Mu Yingying and Xiao Yang both came here, and immediately spoke. Their voices were full of surprise. "It is indeed the mother of the fairy body tree," Xiao Yang said slowly after sizing up. Although it was protected by the branches and green leaves wrapped by these protections, Xiao Yang was still sure about the perception of some soul power and its appearance. The mother of the fairy body tree? Mu Yingying was once again puzzled. This thing, for some powerhouses whose soul power has been seriously injured, is a treasure that can heal all of their soul power. Xiao Yang's doubts about Mu Yingying were also relieved, and he explained immediately. "Then I'll give you this thing." Mu Yingying was very interested, because she didn't plan to take this thing away. Moreover, Xiao Yang is an alchemist, so he is probably more useful to his soul power than himself. Since that's the case, then I'm welcome. Xiao Yang heard the words and directly activated his soul power to put the entire canopy that wrapped the mother of the fairy body tree into the ring. At the same time, Mu Yingying on the side opened her mouth slightly. Obviously, the power of Xiao Yang's soul-devouring talisman was eerie and strange, and the addition of Dong Xian's corpse just now made Mu Yingying quite puzzled, but she did not mean to ask. Xiao Yang effortlessly put the mother of the fairy body tree into the collection ring, and then the huge soul force naturally discovered the concerns in Mu Yingying's heart. "The evil forces and ghostly auras that have appeared in my body before are not mine." Xiao Yang also spoke slightly. "Yep. You don't have to say it. I know it all." Mu Yingying smiled slowly. "Then you. Don't be afraid, I'm really an Evildor." After Mu Yingying said this, Xiao Yang immediately opened his mouth. "If you are really evil, then it is also my evil." After speaking, her pretty face flushed, and she poured out of the ancient tree. "It's really strange words." Xiao Yang shook his head, and then followed him. He knew that when he got out of here, the real highlight was about to begin. Fen Tian and his party left the 6th floor of the underground palace and rushed towards the deepest part of the underground palace. On the way, Ling Mengsheng suddenly asked Fen Tian, "Pavilion Master, it is said that Yang Kai has a younger sister. How come I never heard him mention it?" "Yang Kai does have a younger sister, but this younger sister, not to mention you, even me, has never met." Fen Tian shook his head and said, "This." Ling Mengsheng shook his head, then stopped talking. "But the rumors from the outside world are right. Yang Kai, it's indeed Sheng Yang who converted to human." After a while, Fen Tian decided to tell the story. "What?" "That is to say, Yang Kai was a holy flame in the holy flame list before his death." Fen Tian said so, Even Zhu Jin, who was always calm, couldn't help trembling. The wonders of heaven and earth, as long as the strength is close to fighting immortals, they all have the qualifications to convert to human beings. However, if the wonders of heaven and earth want to reach the strength of fighting immortals, they can only be born with spiritual wisdom and have experienced nearly 10,000 years of savings. Possible. Moreover, once he successfully transfers to human beings, his strength will also fall back to the level of a one-star fighting emperor. And holy flame is different from other wonders of heaven and earth. If some medicinal materials are converted into human beings, the body of the medicinal materials will be preserved, and the spiritual wisdom born from the medicinal materials will inherit the spirituality of the medicinal materials and become human again. And Xiao won't. In the entire Great Thousand World, there are only 36 holy flames, so after the holy flame is transformed into a human being, the power of the holy flame will not be separated, because that is their life. That is to say, if someone wants to take the holy flame in Kai can only be killed by killing Yang Kai. Fen Tian said coldly. It's still so obscure. When Ling Mengsheng heard the words, everyone couldn't help but be surprised. I remember that there seems to be another way to obtain holy flame. At this time, Shen Muqing's big eyes flickered slightly. When she was told by Fen Tian, she also remembered that she had read it in an ancient book. What way? Ling Mengsheng surrounded him and opened his mouth slightly. Sacrifice. Shen Muqing said slightly. Sacrifice? Impossible. The lineage of Xiao is the nemesis of evil races outside the realm, and they are arrogant by nature. The sacrifice must be made willingly, so I am afraid there will be no such situation. The old man heard the words and shook his head immediately. In the holy flames, this kind of situation has never happened, but I have only seen it in ancient books. As for whether it is true or not, I don't know. Shen Muqing's voice just fell, and there was no further text. It's not unreasonable what Muqing said. After all, in a situation like Yang Kai, when you are besieged by a powerful powerhouse, and you have nowhere to go, in order to keep the source of your holy flame from falling into the hands of those you hate, it might not be a choice to offer sacrifices to others in the end. Tian Laro said slightly. Let's go, the entrance to the 7th floor of the underground palace is just ahead. The last stop. After everyone finished speaking, they went directly to the 7th floor of the underground palace. The 4 of Ling Mengsheng plus the 6 of Mu Shuzi and Zhuan Muqing. As for Fen Tian and Zhu Jin, they were hidden in the dark. Crash. The turbulent water flows continuously, and in this river, because it is dark, there is no sunlight, and even the water presents a strange darkness. It's just that in the center of the black water stream, a solid stone statue slowly stands. This stone statue is obviously the king of the Xianling royal family in the first generation, but it was suppressed by the pain of petrification of Medusa. Thousands of years later, it still looks like this. Above the stone statue is a sealed space with special power applied. It's burning hot. This time, Fen Tian will probably never come back. I haven't been able to conquer you for so many years. I'm dead too. But I'm also happy to make Fen Tian's group fall completely. On the 7th floor of the underground palace, a thin old man slowly stepped into the air and spoke to the man whose body was penetrated by countless dark chains. Old man Xian, you Xianling royal family spend their whole lives, but you are nothing but running dogs in the ghost world. In the first battle, your Xianling royal family lost to us at Fenxiang Pavilion, and today, in the battle, you will also lose to us. The bound Yang Kai said with a gloomy face. Hey, that's not necessarily true. When Fen Tian retreated, his strength was only in the late stage of one-star fighting immortal. Even if he has made rapid progress over the years, I am afraid that at most one-star fighting immortal will be complete. The difference between the first level of Dozian is like a gulf. I think you know it better than anyone else. Elder Shen said with a slow smile. It's really despicable. For the sake of personal grievances, to actually unite with the ghost world. It seems that Shen-san 3 days have been harassed by your Xianling royal family. Yang Kai said coldly. Since ancient times, winning kings and losing pirates, our Xianling royal family is not limited to the Xianling continent. Those guys from the super sect are too ignorant, and the Dark Knight Ghost takes what he needs, our Xianling royal family achieves our goal, and we both owe each other and cooperate for a win-win situation. Xian Laro smiled slowly. I'm afraid that your goal will not be achieved by then, and you will make a dowry for the ghost world. Yang Kai said with a cold snort. Elder Shen, what nonsense are you talking to this guy? Wouldn't it be better to kill him directly to take out the source of holy flame? The Dark Knight Ghost Immortal, who was hiding in the dark, immediately let out a gloomy sneer. No. The holy flame on this guy Yenji has been fused with him for a long time, and if he kills him rashly, I am afraid that he accidentally detonates the holy flame, and then our entire Shenling royal family will be wiped out. Furthermore, this fellow Yang Kai is a human being converted from holy flame. The source power of holy flame is like our heart and soul. Once it is taken out, it will die. So we have been trying to find a solution all these years, but we still can't kill him. Elder Shen said directly. You can't kill him with so many of you? Hearing this, Dark Knight Guizian suddenly became puzzled. If you don't believe it, try it. If you can kill him, I'm afraid the power of holy flame will not be bound here. Xian Laro said slightly. Saint Yang converted to human beings? Isn't this Yenchi's brain broken? Dark Yi Guizian was immediately surprised when he saw Elder Shen's words. At this time, the ghosts in the Dark Knight were hidden in the dark so that no one could see any traces, but when I heard Elder Shen said, I couldn't help but be surprised. If the wonders of heaven and earth want to be converted into human beings, their strength will undoubtedly need to reach the level of fighting immortals, and they also need to transcend the catastrophe. Even the ghosts of the Dark Knight can't help but frown. He is a holy flame himself. I don't know why, but he actually converted to human. Converting to human cultivation can indeed prolong their lifespan, but when he first discovered him, there should be another sacred flame by his side that is weaker than him, but he was desperately intercepted by this guy, so he let go of the other one. But I believe that with Yang Kai, that holy flame will come back sooner or later. On the silver-white robe of old Shen, there was a strange power, and then he opened his mouth slightly. It is said that the holy flame is converted to human beings, and the power of holy flame is the soul of the heart. If you want to obtain the power of holy flame, I am afraid this guy will die instantly. That is equivalent to killing this guy if you want to get the real holy flame. And this Yang Kai, even if he is bound, the entire Shenling royal family can't kill him. I'm afraid this guy's holy flame power is extremely terrifying. Dark Knight Guizian kept thinking in his heart. You don't shoot for a while, I'll meet them. After Elder Shen finished speaking, he waved his hand, and immediately wrapped Yang Kai with an invisible force, in order to prevent this guy from tipping off. Them. Come on. Dark Yi nodded slightly, but the next moment, he looked at the tightly closed 7th floor entrance of the underground palace, which was slowly opened. This video will end here.